21 years ago today, where were you? It's the question that comes up every year at this time. Much like on 11/22, people tend to ask, where were you on 11/22/63? My parents were sitting in their middle school classes. I was not born yet. I'd be born 14 years later. But much like with Waco, Ruby Ridge, the OKC bombing in 95, when Diana was taken from us in 97, people ask on days like that where you remember things, where were you? The day before, 10 September of 2001, we were just as divided then as we are now, if not a little bit less. I had started on 10 September at a hotel as pre-opening crew. Sorry for the road, folks. Pre-opening crew. The entirety of the hotel was empty, save employees. We were learning everything from front desk to front office, back office, room service, bellhop, concierge, banquet, restaurant, all of it. I was front office staff, so we were all together. We had suffered through HR paperwork the day before. So on that Tuesday, we were learning about each other, getting to know each other. And shortly after our shift started, the general manager comes in. And there were a few little wisecracks because he's pushing a TV on the stand that we all knew from the 80s and 90s that we'd cheer when it came into class. But he was playing CNN. And he told us what happened, and after the shock wore off, we watched for a little while. He then muted it and said, "I've opened every room in the hotel. Phones are on. I don't care if you're calling Timbuktu. International is authorized. Check on your families, check on your friends, make sure they're okay. If you need to stay here for the night, you can. We will be feeding everyone before we send you home in about an hour and a half. We will be back tomorrow. Let me know what you need." I love that man still. He was one of the best managers I've ever worked for. A true leader. If you want to know about him, I'll tell you more in another video. I got home, I'd checked on everybody, so I turned on the television. Just sat all day until about 7 o'clock at night when I was worn out from watching all that all day. So I went to bed. I don't remember if I even ate much that day after I left the hotel. Went back to work the next day and we tried to get back to our lives. What I remember though is on 10 September, we were as divided as we are today, if not a little bit less. But on 12 September, blood donation lines were longer than they are to get into first-run movies like Black Panther or Titanic or whatever. Donations of food, clothing, water, money rolled in from New York, DC, and Pennsylvania. Fire departments all over the country were calling, saying, "Let us come up and take a few days, a week. You guys are worn out." And they all got the same answer, said, "We have crews from all over New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Rhode Island, all of them are coming in. We have people. Stay there and watch your city." I think a few of the volunteers did just fly up to take their shift. What many people don't know is that Steve Buscemi, Crazy Eyes from Mr. Deeds, he had been a New York firefighter in his youth. So on 9/11, he went back to New York, went to his old station, put on his gear, and started helping. The media never saw him because, well, he looked like every other firefighter out there. He has never talked about that to my knowledge, other than if he's asked, and he plays it down because he's a firefighter. Firefighters are truly a family. Firefighters, cops, EMTs, 911 dispatchers, doctors, nurses, soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines. We're family. Steve still felt that way, and he went back, and others did the same. Politics was put aside for a long time. We were just a country grieving and trying to come together and get started again. It wasn't even 10 years later that we were back to being divided. And now, at 21 years past the event, we're more divided than I've seen in my lifetime. Where did the 9/12 spirit go? Sadly, I can tell you, it left the newsrooms and it left the newspapers. It left all of the voices with a platform, and they went right back to their norm, praising one side and pillorying the other. They went right back to what gets ratings, once 9/11 wasn't getting them those ratings. The best I've heard it said is, I would never in my life wish for another 9/11 for any country. But every country on earth needs to have the 9/12 spirit. I'd give my left arm for another 9/12. Think about the Pulse nightclub. A horrific event that I personally decried, and pretty much everybody I know who is either a conservative or a gun owner decried, because it was a horrific thing to do to anyone. Within hours, blood donations were back up. Chick-fil-A showed up and gave everybody a chicken sandwich or some kind of food and a drink. People rallied around those who needed help. And you see that. We saw it with Hurricane Harvey. The Cajun Navy showed up in force with flat-bottom boats to ride all over Houston and other cities looking for people who needed to get out. They didn't care if they were Republican and you were Democrat or vice versa. They just knew people needed help and they showed up. I remember watching Demolition Ranch on his vlog channel talk about going down there with one of his friends with Sea-Doos. At one point, they had to have a member of law enforcement ride with them, and then being told they needed to go home because it wasn't safe to be out if you weren't law enforcement, because people were taking advantage. Folks, we need the 9/12 spirit. Beyond that, we need God in this world. We need revival. Without it, we're just going to hasten the end of days. I don't even know how many times I've heard it said in the last few months. But I do believe we're living in either the end of the run-up before the end of days or in the beginning of the end of days. It's said that it will be as in the days of Noah. Depravity, debauchery, every form of self-gratification will be praised. Innocence will no longer be protected. Sound familiar? I pray every day for this world to get back to where we were 20 years and 364 days ago. To get back to that spirit of, I don't care what your faith is, what your politics are. We just need to come together as a country and be a country united. We can disagree. We can discuss our disagreements. We can debate them. And do so civilly and logically as adults who respect the fact that we have a right to disagree. Sadly, I don't know that we'll get back there. Not until Christ returns. It doesn't mean I'm going to stop. I'll talk about my faith. I will spread my Lord's witness and will and words until I'm in His presence. Until I'm there, I have one mission. Go ye therefore and teach all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. I have avenues available to me that people even 20 years ago didn't have. YouTube, Rumble, TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, Clapper. How many of those, if we truly use them, would prove to be the greatest weapon for God that has ever been seen on this planet to this date? And I realize, yes, on many of them you're fighting an uphill battle. You're fighting against the actual platform trying to censor and silence you. Don't let them. You get banned from one, go to another. You get banned from it, go to another. Do not let the enemy silence you, because that is his greatest weapon. His greatest achievement is not dragging someone else down with him. Satan's greatest achievement is making us be silent, convincing us to be lukewarm. And I will not do that. One of the greatest things I've ever heard is the more the devil attacks you, the more you can be sure you're on the right path. Because he attacks you not because, well, you're the enemy. He attacks you because you're dangerous to him. Because he fears what you're doing. I hope everyone has a good week this week, and may God bless you. As always, make sure you're subscribed, notifications on, because I don't post on a schedule. Make sure to let me know what you think. Just keep it civil. Until next time, y'all have a great week.